Hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to session 5 of day 2 of the United Nations Big Data Forum 2021. We are very pleased to have you. We are very pleased with the way the program has been going so far. We've had some amazing discussions and debates, and we are very, very pleased that you are turning out in such big numbers for our sessions. This session is a little bit of a change of pace compared to the last one. It is just an incredible look at the way artificial intelligence and technology and big data and robotics are helping nature do its job. The title of our presentation today is Earth's First Robotic Beehive: Saving bee colonies through technology, improving yields through automation, and improving pollination through healthier hives. Unfortunately, the founder and the co-founder and CEO of BEEWISE, who was expected to give the presentation, Mr. Sar Safra, is unable to join us due to factors outside of his and our control. But we are very lucky that the second co-founder of BEEWISE, Mr. Eliyah Radzyner, who is the BEEWISE head of product, is able to step in and give this presentation. Eliyah is the head of product at BEEWISE and a professional beekeeper, and acted as an apiary operations advisor. He holds a BSc in agriculture and biology from the Hebrew University and specializes in the field of crop protection, entomology, and beekeeping. He's a well-known entrepreneur in organic agriculture, and he serves as the head of product and the in-house subject matter at BEEWISE on bees. We're very pleased to welcome him. I think he's joining us from California this afternoon. Welcome to the Big Data Forum. Before you start your presentation, I just wanted to invite all the participants to post any questions that they might have on the presentation or in general on the subject matter in the Q&A tab that you can see at the bottom of your screen, right in between participants and chat. I will be following Eliyah's presentation. We will be engaging in a discussion with you. So please post all your questions there. But now, without any further ado, I would like to hand over, and we can find out how big data and technology is helping us protect our bees, without whom our entire world will be in omni-shambles. So thank you very much, Eliyah. Please, over to you.
Okay, so thank you very much for having me and putting together this amazing event. As you mentioned, my co-founder, Sar Safra, was supposed to be here and give this talk. So I'm very excited to do this in his place, and very happy for the opportunity. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us and giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit about what we're doing and how we're trying to help the bees. So we're really going to focus on, and that is exactly what we're doing. We're really going to focus on how we're taking technology and using it in a new field, and try to help save the bees. So this is BEEWISE. We founded the company in 2018, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But first, to the bees. So as most of you probably know, bees pollinate what we eat, our food. But what you might not know is that 75% of all fruits, vegetables, nuts are actually pollinated by bees, and we wouldn't have any of them without pollination. So it's not just a few crops; it's something very substantial in the food supply for the entire globe, for all humanity. But it's not only what we eat, it's also what we drink. Most people aren't aware of that, but even coffee is pollinated by bees. It's what we dress. Cotton is pollinated by bees. And also other industries like the dairy industry and the meat industry are also affected by bee pollination, because also the cattle that we raise also eats food that is pollinated by bees, alfalfa, for example. So this is really an kind of infrastructure of agriculture. Now, when we talk about we eat, think about 7.5 billion people all over the world that are dependent on bee pollination. We don't realize this, but it doesn't matter where you live and what you eat. At the beginning of that bite that you're taking at the moment, or that sip of coffee that you're drinking, at the beginning of that, there was a bee that took pollen from a male flower and moved it to a female flower. And without that very special act that the bees carry out, we wouldn't have all this food. So really, like I said, this is really the infrastructure of agriculture. And I think except for water, there is nothing, no one component in agriculture that really affects so much of what we eat and so much of the farming industry all over the world. Again, from China, Europe, Africa, all the way to the US. It doesn't matter where you are, where you're trying to eat, or where you're trying to grow the food, you're going to need the bees. But there's a problem, and most of you have probably heard that bees are disappearing, bees are dying out, and this is a huge problem today. We're losing on an annual basis every year about 35% of our bees. Again, all over the world, it doesn't matter where you are, from China all the way to the US. The colonies, the bee colonies are collapsing, and we're losing about 35% of the bees every year. So think about a beekeeper raising, it doesn't matter if they're raising 100 colonies or 1,000 colonies or 10,000 colonies, they will have, by the end of the year, 35% less colonies. This is a dramatic number and a dramatic problem. This is not something that is sustainable, and this is actually threatening this infrastructure that we're talking about, the bees. At a certain point, we will not be able to really maintain the bee populations from one year to the next year, when colony losses get higher and higher every year. So this is a major problem, and this is what we're facing. And for me, on a personal level, this is where I started out from. I started out as a beekeeper, maintaining hives and losing hives all the time, and all the time with the feeling, that I'm too late, not being able to do a good job. And that's where we started thinking about, okay, so how can we utilize technology to try and solve this problem? And I will expand on that in a couple of slides. Now, bees are dying off for many different reasons. We have pests and disease, and we have to understand that also these pests and disease, and also climate change and pesticide, all these problems are, I don't want to say human-made, but human-induced. So pests, for example, pests from different places in the world, because of globalization, have now spread throughout the bee industry all over the world, and have become a real problem on a global scale. Even if they were a local problem, a few years ago, today they're a global problem. Pesticides, climate change, these are all human-induced problems. So we are actually putting a lot of stress factors on this infrastructure, on the bees that are trying to pollinate our food. We're making it very difficult for them. And I think we have an obligation to try and do something to change this reality, and not only be on the harming side, but also be on the helpful side and trying to save and fix this situation. So before I get into the solution, I just want to say that there are many problems today, like I said, that bees are facing: pests, pesticides, climate change. And when we set out on our journey to try and solve these problems, we kind of realized that you can tackle each one of these problems on its own, but there's no silver bullet that will actually stop the colony loss. You can solve the pesticide problem, but you'll still have colonies collapsing from disease. You can solve the disease problem, but you'll still have the pest problem. You can solve the pest problem, you'll still have the climate change problem. And when we were thinking about these different problems, what we realized is that the real problem or the real prohibitor from fixing these problems is the infrastructure. The infrastructure that pollination is based on is a wooden box that was invented 150 years ago. So this is not today all over the world, and we have 100 million hives globally. Okay, that's a big number. They're all raised in this equipment, this old wooden box that was designed 150 years ago. And this is not the natural home of the bees. This is a man-made, man-designed box that served its purpose. It enabled bees or beekeepers to raise bees and maintain bees during the previous century. But today, with globalization and just the big numbers that we need bees and need pollination, and the new and modern stress factors that I just mentioned, this box is not enabling us to treat bees in real time. So I want to take a couple of minutes and explain why this box is preventing us from treating the bees, and then we can understand the solution. So what you see in this image, yeah, this is modern beekeeping. People just like me in white suits all over the world, going out to the field and opening up the hives, looking at the bees, trying to assess the situation and make a decision on what's the best thing to do in order to save or to help this colony. You can see these guys are really like looking at this hive and trying to understand what they should do with this hive. Now these boxes are painted white on the outside, as you can see, but really these are black boxes. Until the beekeepers go out to the field and open the lid, they don't know what's happening inside. And when we're losing 30 to 40% of our bees every year, there's a lot going on inside there that we can act upon and help if we only knew what was happening and could act upon it in real time. But because these are old boxes, wooden boxes, sometimes hours away from where the beekeepers are, it's just they're not accessible, and we can't really monitor our hives in real time, and we can't treat them in real time. So this gap, the distance gap and the time gap, and the fact that you have to get a person out to the field to open the hive and look at it before you can make a decision and treat the hive, is really what's preventing us from dealing with the real problems, dealing with the pests, dealing with disease, dealing with pesticides. And I'll give a couple of examples. Okay, so for example, in order to keep the bees well when pesticides are applied in the field, we can close the entrances of the hives. So today with the wooden boxes, that's very difficult. You have to go out to the field and close each entrance, and it's not scalable. You can't do it. And every problem that starts out in a hive it's a gradual problem that escalates. If you find it, early on, you can treat it early on before it becomes detrimental, and you can actually fix that problem and save that hive. So I always give an example of an ear infection. If you have an ear infection, or I have a kid, I have 4 kids actually. So when their ears hurt, I give them some eardrops, and the problem is solved. But the same problem, if they don't get those eardrops, can escalate, and they will need antibiotics. If they don't get the antibiotics on time, it can escalate to a procedure, God forbid. It can just become worse and worse. And that's exactly the same thing with bees. Bees are a biological system, just like humans, just like dogs or any other animal that we raise. We need to find the problems early on and treat them early on. So we need real-time monitoring and real-time treatment. And that's exactly what we're doing. This is the bee home, the world's first robotic beekeeping system. So we're using computer vision and precision robotics with a lot of artificial intelligence, machine learning, neural networks to monitor the hives, make decisions in real time, and carry out beekeeping in real time. How exactly does it work? So each one of these devices, we call it the bee home, right, has 24 colonies in it. So it's not just one hive, it's a group of hives. And like I showed you before, this is a bee yard today. And you can see there are about 20 hives here. So 24 hives, 24 colonies, that's a good number. That's a standard number for what we call today a bee yard or a pollination drop. And that's how beekeepers maintain their bees. They're not just one by one, but rather in groups. So we have the 24 colonies, and inside we have a robotic, like a robotic beekeeper, basically. And the robotic beekeeper can basically monitor the hives. I'll soon show you exactly how that works, but it can evaluate the precise situation of all the hives in real time, all the time, 24/7. So what these beekeepers are doing here when they go out to the field once every few weeks, because they're round robbing their hives, our system does continuously all the time. And as soon as we identify a situation that needs that needs addressing, the system will actually carry out that treatment or harvesting or feeding or pest treatment or whatever is needed in real time without having to send a person out to the field. So how do beekeepers use them? Beekeepers move their hives around from crop to crop to pollinate our food. So it fits on a vehicle. They will take it on the vehicle, take it out to the almond orchard or to the avocado orchard or to the cucumber field, place it in the crop. The bees will do their work, pollinate the crops. The system will maintain the health of the bees. And then the beekeeper can come again and move it to the next crop. Thanks to this system with, again, precision robotics, cameras, machine learning, computer vision, we're able to reduce labor by 90% for our customers. We're able to increase the yields, the honey yields from the hives by 50%. And the most important thing is that we're able to reduce the colony loss, that 30 to 40% loss of every year, by 70%, and bring it to under 10%. So that's an amazing win for us, an amazing success. And I think for me on a personal level, the most important thing about our mission and about our product. So a bit on the software side. So we have the mechanical device out in the field with the hives, and we have the monitoring system. And basically we're just harvesting data, we're extracting data all the time. So this is the first big data system or bee data system in use to try and solve the bee problem. And today our beekeepers can go into their dashboard and see all their devices on the map. This is a real image, by the way. They can see all their devices, see every device, how it's doing, what the trends are like in terms of honey and pollen and brood. And I'll get into that later in the questions if you like, and explain more about how the colonies work and how we treat them. The beekeeper gets notifications in real time. If there's a problem in one of the devices, in one of the hives, if there's a queen missing, or a pesticide that's being detected, or hives that need harvesting or need feeding, the beekeeper gets notified in real time, can see what's happening, can make decisions, and can treat the hives in real time remotely without having to go out into the field. So this is the whole portfolio where you can see all the devices, and then the beekeeper can go into a specific device and see all the hives, every hive, see what the situation is. Again, there are three things that we mainly use to evaluate the hive's health and strength, which is honey, pollen, and the brood. The brood is the early stage of the bee. before it becomes a bee. It's a larva stage. And as beekeepers, that's what we use to evaluate the strength and health of every hive. And this is exactly what the beekeeper can see going into his portfolio or her portfolio, looking at the entire, all the devices, or looking at a specific bee home and even a specific hive. They can actually open up a specific frame and see the image of that frame. And this is a very important thing. So for two reasons. First of all, humans have been keeping bees for thousands of years. This is not a new practice. So we have about 3,000 years of experience in raising bees. And I would say that 90 or even 95% of our evaluation of the hive situation and the basis for our decision making today in standard hives is based on what we see with our eyes. And we are the only solution today that actually provides optical monitoring of the frames. Just like the beekeeper going out into the field and opening the lid, taking out the frames and looking at the frames, this is exactly what our system does. So this is also tapping into all this knowledge that humanity has worked on for the last 3,000 years. But it's also building trust with our beekeepers. They're able to look at the data, but they're also able to look at how we got the data. And that's what I'm going to show you now. So they can look at a specific frame and see how it's presented. So these cells in the middle here, this is brood, and that's the pink down here. So they can see this frame is 60% brood. And then there's a little bit of pollen. And you'll see, I'll show you another image in a minute, and some honey. That's the orange on top here. And this is the honey around it. So they can actually look at the image and look at the data and correlate and build trust with the system. When you're wanting to disrupt the market and introduce a new technology, it's very important to build the trust. This is how our AI sees it. So this is the frame, and our beekeepers can actually click the AI view up here and see how our system analyzes this. So this is machine learning. The system actually identifies the individual cells. Each one of these cells is about 5 millimeters across. They're not very big. So it identifies the individual cells and categorizes them as whatever they are. The whites are empty, and then the pink, that's the brood that I was talking about before. A few cells of pollen, that's the yellow around here, and honey. And they can see, this is a real image. They can, the beekeepers can go and see how the frames that are being scanned by the system are producing the data. And this is big data. This is how we take data and use it to solve the bee problem. So looking at this problem, we realized that in order to solve the problem, and like I was talking about at the beginning of the talk, pests, pesticides, climate change, we really need a comprehensive solution. It's not enough just to solve the pest problem or the pesticide problem, the disease problem. You need a comprehensive solution. So basically what the way we look at it, or the way we look at our product, is a platform or a tool for modern beekeeping. It's a tool that enables the beekeeper to do what they do today, but at scale with precision beekeeping, okay, like precision agriculture. So just to do what they do today, but in a better way, a more modern approach, data-driven. Okay, so it's precision robotics based on data. They can make real informed decisions, harvest the honey, treat the pests, prevent swarming. That's another thing that we're talking about, and treat whatever circumstance they see in the field in real time. So it's a comprehensive solution. A couple of words about our business model. Today, we are the initial market that we are working with is the commercial beekeepers market who are providing pollination for the food industry, for the food supply. So it's a B2B business. It's a subscription model, kind of like SaaS, but with hardware. There's a delivery cost, and then a monthly subscription fee where beekeepers can basically lease our devices and use them in the field. We're working with currently focusing on large commercial apiaries. We're talking about beekeepers with 5,000 hives, 10,000 hives, even 50,000 hives. At the moment, we are we have about 100 devices spread out through Israel and United States. These are the two markets that we've started working with. A little bit about the market. Like I said before, it's a big market. We have over 100 million hives in the world. And our vision and our mission is that's the important number. We want to see, we want to build a plan for how we go and service each one of those hives. So the wooden box that you saw at the beginning of the talk, that was an invention invented 150 years ago, and it's become the market standard. Almost 90% of those 100 million hives are raised in those wooden boxes. And our vision is that the bee home will become the new market standard for future beekeeping. As I said before, we established the company in 2018. So we were actually we still are five co-founders. Today we are already, the team is already 80 people strong. We have an office in Israel, we have an office in Ukraine, and we have an office in America, in California. We have a very strong team, a very strong research team, very strong R&D team, hardware and software. And I think we have spent the last year scaling the team and really preparing it to scale the company. And I think today we've built a very strong infrastructure that's ready to really, face the market on a large scale and really scale this business. And we are first to market, so we really want to take advantage of that and move fast and aggressively through the market. And I think we're at a good position to do that at the moment. We've raised today to this point almost $40 million, all the way to Series B. We've got investors like Corner Ventures and Fortissimo that some of you may know. We've been featured on Time's Best Inventions for 2020 and some other contests and magazines. And today we're raising our Series C. So that's what we're doing today, and that will basically enable us to scale the business. We feel today that we've kind of reached the product market fit. The market, the product is stable today, and really working well, and we feel confident about that, and really ready to scale manufacturing. And that's basically what we're raising the Series C for. And I think that brings us, that brings us pretty much up to date and where we're at. And I think this is a good time for the questions.
Thank you so much, Eliyah. That was absolutely fascinating. Even to those of us who never really thought about bees in any sort of depth. Very, very, very well explained and very clear. Yes, we have about 10 minutes or just slightly less because we have the next session coming up after that. But I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. I mean, mostly from the perspective of accessibility and usability, given that we are here in the Caribbean, that's what we're calling you. Are bee homes adaptable to different climatic conditions? And how can the Caribbean apiarists benefit from this invention? Do you have any
Yeah,
experience here?
Yeah, great question. And one of the points that it did, I do have a slide about it, but the hives are thermoregulated and also thermo-insulated. So the devices themselves, today, one of the problems with the wooden box, and I'll get a little bit into the biology of the bees today, okay? So the wooden box is very affected by outside temperature. On a hot day in the sun, the inside temperature of the wooden box will get much hotter than the outside, and on a cold day, it's going to get colder than the outside. Our box is thermally regulated. Now, what you have to understand is that bees, just like any other living creature, have to maintain a specific temperature. They have to maintain, just like humans, 36 degrees. That's what they need inside the hive. They're creating heat by their, by their metabolic systems, and basically, in order to maintain that temperature on a hot day, what they will do is they will fan the hive. They will take water and fan the hive to cool it down. And every action a bee does is fueled. They need calories to burn in order to fan those hives. And any calorie that bee uses is actually honey. They eat honey in order to have energy and cool the hive. And in our boxes, they actually use much less energy in order to maintain the correct temperature than they would in a wooden box. And part of that 50% increase in the honey production is due to that. They need to spend less energy on maintaining the right temperature, whether it's cold or hot. So yeah, I think in a place like the Caribbean where temperature is a big factor, I think definitely the bee home would have a tremendous effect.
Thank you very much. I see our users are also asking questions. Let me just go to them first, and then if we have time, I'll go back to some of the other ones that I also have based on your presentation. One question is, do you collate or share all of the data to get an overall picture, or do only individual owners get to see their own data from bee homes?
Yeah, so the user will only see their own data, right? But our system, our algorithms are exposed to all the data. It's not on a personal level. We don't collect the data with your information as a beekeeper. So that you can only see that. But our algorithms are learning across the board. So think about it today. We already have thousands of hives all over the world connected to our system. Next year, we're going to have tens of thousands of hives. In a few years, we're going to have hundreds of thousands of hives. And this artificial intelligent beekeeper is going to become the most experienced beekeeper in the world, because they're seeing, this is exactly how big data can help, because they're saying this beekeeper did this and that beekeeper did that. And in this climate, this is what's best. And in this season, there's something else that you need to do. And, over a big enough sample, you're just going to become the most experienced beekeeper. And I think that today, that is one of the biggest problems today. Those beekeepers that go out into the field today, there's a gap of experience. Because if I have 10,000 hives, maybe I have 20 years of experience with beekeeping. Maybe I'm the best beekeeper in the world. But if I have 20,000 hives, I'm not able to go out and visit all those hives. So there are people between me and my hives. And those people are usually unexperienced. It's the first year, the second year. So I'm not able to utilize all that experience that I have. And suddenly, when I can access my bees from a computer, I can suddenly take all this experience and really, utilize it to help the bees and treat the bees like I want to, and like I would if I only had, 4 hives in the backyard, but at scale. So that's something that gets our customers excited.
No, absolutely fascinating. I'm just moving on since we only have about 5 minutes. We have another question from the audience. This technology has limited or even eradicated the disadvantages of the wooden box system. What have been the new vulnerabilities and weaknesses with the implementation of this amazing technology? So we're basically asking you to tell us your own weak spots, in a way.
Yeah. No, great. So look, there are a lot of places. This is I was saying before that the product today is stable and we feel very confident about it, but it's still an early stage product, and there's still a lot of niches that we can't service. So, for example, places today that don't have coverage, like cellular coverage, right? Our system needs connectivity. The wooden box doesn't need connectivity, so that's a disadvantage. Places where maybe our system's a solar system. So places where there's not enough sunlight, maybe if you're keeping bees up further north, that might be a problem. And today we're focusing on areas where, let's say, the initial product is focusing in our comfort zone. The commercial beekeepers who are working where they have service, and where there is sunlight. Other problems are, for example, smaller scale crops, for example, or backyard beekeepers who don't want 24 hives in one spot. They want only 4 hives or 6 hives. So you can't have less than 24 here. Yeah, that's the unit. And we're still early on, so we're probably going to learn more disadvantages or more challenges as we proceed. But I think those are the main ones that I'm aware of today.
Thank you. And just moving on to the last question, because we really need to wrap it up. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Since this process is mechanized, what does the powering of the hives entail? How long does the hive last on average with bee homes?
Are we talking about the colony, the biology, or the power? What are we talking about?
I think it's the power. I don't know if the participant can elaborate. Power.
The power. So we have solar panels on top, and we have a set of batteries that store the electricity. It will go for 3 days without sun, and for even longer in like a kind of maintenance mode. But something to keep in mind is that bees are kind of solar creatures. So during the seasons where there's less sun, shorter days, rainy days, the bees are less active, and there's less need for the system to maintain the bees. There's less work for the system to do. And during the sunny seasons, during spring and summer, the bees are much more active, and there's more sun. So there's a innate correlation between the bees being solar and the device being solar. And today we don't see any problems with that. Plus, even if the device does go dormant for a couple of days, they're still better off than in wooden boxes, because the box itself is better than the wood box. So it's not a mission critical system like, we're in the middle of an operation, and if the power goes out, everything goes to hell. So we're lucky in that perspective.
Thank you. I have time just for one more quick question. Okay. I mean, if you can give us a very quick answer, but it's related to honey, right? Because in the Caribbean, there is a lot of honey production, and it is sort of seen as very valuable. I just wanted to ask, how can bee homes help transform the apiary sectors across the Caribbean to improve honey production and create a differentiated honey product? Is this something that is economically feasible for beekeepers, and is this something that bee homes can assist with?
So I'm not an expert on the Caribbean market yet. I'll be happy to learn more about it, and if the person asking the question would like to send us, some information and some more questions later on, I'll be welcoming it. But I will say 2 things. So one on automating the solution, right? So today the harvesting is done continuously in the device. So for the bees, as soon as a hive is ready to be harvested, it's replaced with an empty frame. As soon as the frame is ready to be harvested, it's replaced with an empty frame, and the bees can continue working. So for them, it's much better in terms of energy and in terms of work. We don't come and harvest the entire hive at once. So it's much softer, much easier for the bees, and also creates more honey. On the data side, if you're in a specific location where you want to differentiate the honey, you can actually know each frame when it was harvested. That batch of honey that you collected from the device, you can know exactly when where, how much of it was harvested, and basically create a label around that and back that label with data from the device. Being able to say, look, this is sage honey or whatever honey it is, and I've got the data to prove it. So I think that we can definitely help in that regard.
Thank you so very much. I really wish we had had more time. This was a very engaging and enjoyable presentation, and I think a lot of us are doing calculations in our own heads now whether we could afford a bee home, and we can all chip in together in this forum and get one started. Thank you. That was an absolutely amazing presentation. Thank you so much for your time and for stepping in at the last second. I know that's always difficult, but we certainly did not feel it. For everybody else, please join me in under 5 minutes for our final session of the 2021 Big Data Forum. We welcome the amazing Dr. Patrick Hussein and a very, very interesting panel for discussion on big data in Trinidad and Tobago. For now, for session 5, Eliyah, thank you very, very much, and have a lovely rest of the day.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.